Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Robert Young in an episode of Father Knows Best from 71 years ago today, October 11th, 1951, the birthday present. And we thank you for tuning in on this Tuesday, the 11th day of October, 284th day of the year, 81 days remaining until we get to 2023. Now, along the Natchez Trail in Tennessee in 1809, explorer Meriwether Lewis dies under mysterious circumstances at an inn called Grinder's Stand. In 1811, inventor John Stevens' boat, the Juliana, began operating as the first steam-powered ferry providing service between New York City and Hoboken, New Jersey. In Washington on this date in 1890, the Daughters of the American Revolution founded. In 1910, former President Theodore Roosevelt became the first president to fly in an airplane. He flew for 4 minutes in a plane built by the Wright brothers at Kinloch Aviation Field in St. Louis. In 1929, J.C. Penney opened their first store in Delaware. It became a nationwide company with that opening, with stores in all 48 states. Yes, that was before Alaska and Hawaii. That was in 1929. In 1932, Franklin Roosevelt, the president, received a letter from Einstein about the atomic bomb. That was before it had really had a lot of work done on it. 1950, Federal Communications Commission issued the first license to broadcast television in color to CBS. RCA successfully disputed it and blocked the license from taking effect. There were two systems at that time in 1950, CBS and NBC. NBC's broadcasts in color could also be seen on black and white. CBS's couldn't. Thus, NBC won that. Or RCA, I should say. In 1968, NASA launched Apollo 7, the first successful manned Apollo mission, with astronauts Wally Schirra, Don F. Isley, and Walter Cunningham on board. Saturday Night Live debuted on this date in 1975 with George Carlin as the guest host. In 1984, Vice President George Herbert Walker Bush had debated Congresswoman Geraldine Ferraro in what became a solid, if contentious, debate. At one point, the vice president made what looked like a condescending remark to Ferraro during a discussion of the Carter administration's work in Iran and the Reagan administration's work in Lebanon. Bush said, "Let me help you with the difference, Mrs. Ferraro, between Iran and the embassy in Lebanon." Well, Ferraro nailed the vice president.
Let me just say, first of all, that I almost resent Vice President Bush, your patronizing attitude that you have to teach me about foreign policy. I've been a member of Congress for 6 years. I was there when the embassy was held hostage in Iran, and I have been there and I have seen what has happened in the past several months, 17 months, with your administration. Secondly, please don't categorize my answers either. Leave the interpretation of my answers to the American people who are watching this debate. And let me say further that no one has ever said that those young men who were killed through the negligence of this administration and others ever died in shame. No one who has a child who's 19 or 20 years old, a son, would ever say that about the loss of anybody else's child.
Zinger. Definitely a zinger. Ferraro nailing the vice president solid. Aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger on this date in 1984, astronaut Catherine D. Sullivan became the first American woman to perform a spacewalk. In 1986, President Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev met in Reykjavik, Iceland for a summit.
We go to this meeting for freedom, and we go in hope. As a great American who knew the extremes of hope and despair, Robert E. Lee once said, "History teaches us to hope." Today we're making history, and we're turning the tide of history to peace and freedom and hope.
The summit led to a 1987 treaty restricting nuclear weapons. It was on this date the 100th Space Shuttle mission flown in 2000. In 2001, Polaroid Company filed for federal bankruptcy protection. the first instant camera maker, instantly went out of business. Digital video took Polaroid out. The Senate joined the House on this date in 2002 in approving the use of America's military might against Iraq. And in 2002, former President Jimmy Carter won the Nobel Peace Prize for his 1970s Middle East diplomacy. Passing away on this date in history, Chico Marx, also French singer-actress Edith Piaf, comedian Red Fox, Richard Denning, you remember him from My Favorite Husband and Mr. and Mrs. North, and trumpet player Neil Hefti, who did a lot of great music, especially, Batman. He composed that. Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady of the United States, born on this date in history.
In the last 6 weeks, I've traveled a good deal to different parts of our country, and I think it might interest you if I run through a few of the things which stand out in my mind in relation to my journeys. In the first place, as you may have guessed, I go on lecture trips for a variety of reasons, but the chief one is that signing the contracts a long time ahead means I have to fulfill them, and therefore I plan them for the times in the year when I know I can leave home.
Eleanor Roosevelt, a very well-spoken First Lady, very well-educated First Lady, and I have to tell you that when we look at some of her writings and some of her speeches and radio programs, she actually was probably the equal of her husband, the president. So there you go. Eleanor Roosevelt, born on this date in history. Also jazz drummer Art Blakey. Wilma in the original Flintstones, Gene Vanderpyle. Also singer Dottie West. And from 90210, Luke Perry, who passed away in 2019 at just 52 years of age. Daryl Hall of Hall & Oates fame, 76 today. From the television show Ab Fam from overseas, Dawn French is 65. From Saturday Night Live and the movie Working Girl, Joan Cusack is 60. From Mystery Science Theater 3000, Mystery Science Theater 3000, Michael J. Nelson, the actor-writer, 58. Pro wrestler Rikishi is 57 today. Also, the voice of AEW. No, not Taz is who it is. Yeah, it's not Excalibur. It's not JR, Jim Ross. No, Taz, 55 years old today. From Bones, Emily Deschanel, 46 years of age. From All My Children, Chuck and the Doom Patrol, Matt Bomer, 45. Dawn Summers in Buffy the Vampire Slayer also had a role in Gossip Girl, Michelle Trachtenberg, 37. And wrestler Ricochet in the WWE, 34 years old today. Those some of the people celebrating the 11th day of October as their birthday, and if this is your birthday...
Hi, we're the Four Freshmen, and we just want to say... Happy birthday to you!
And from 71 years ago, October 11th, 1951, Robert Young, Father Knows Best. Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station.
You know, it's true. Difficult times have a way of focusing us. We have to think about what matters most when it comes to our spending, our health care. No doubt. This is why so many people are joining Medishare right now. Medishare is a trusted way to save up to 50% on your monthly healthcare costs. More than 400,000 people have already made the switch. It's pretty obvious why, too, especially now during this challenging season with healthcare costs and out-of-pocket expenses going up. Medishare can save you a lot of money. The typical family saves $500 a month. And Medishare is a Christian healthcare sharing ministry that's worked beautifully for 29 years. There are different options to choose from to fit your budget. I'll give you the number here in a second, and if you call, you can get a price within 2 minutes. Maybe now is the perfect time to make the switch and start saving. Here you go. Call 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, Father Knows Best, October 11th, 1951.
Mother, is Maxwell House really the only coffee in the world?
Well, your father says so, and your father knows best.
Yes, it's Father Knows Best, transcribed in Hollywood, starring Robert Young as father. A half-hour visit with your neighbors, the Andersons. Brought to you by America's favorite coffee, Maxwell House. The coffee that's always good to the last drop. According to the renowned Victor Hugo, no one ever keeps a secret so well as a child, which proves just one thing. In his long and colorful career, Victor Hugo never bought a birthday present for his wife. You know, when you get right down to it, that may be the major difference between Victor Hugo and our friend Jim Anderson. Jim bought a dilly of a birthday present for Margaret, and as a result, the white frame house on Maple Street is literally crawling with secrecy. Like this.
But, Father, I didn't know you didn't want me to take it.
I told them distinctly I didn't want it delivered until Monday. Where am I going to hide it?
Well, there must be lots of places.
Oh, sure. Name 3 places where I can hide a 9-by-15 rug.
All you need is one place.
All right, name 1 place.
Well...
It's like hiding a hippopotamus.
I'll be right in.
Never mind.
I didn't come down the stairs, Dad. It must have been somebody else.
What was?
The hippopotamus.
Nobody said anything about anybody coming down the stairs.
But you said... What's that?
It's Mother's birthday present.
The rug? She'll see it.
I know she'll see it. That's why...
What kind of a surprise is it going to be if she sees it?
Bud, why don't you go away for a few days? You need a vacation.
I do?
Mother! She isn't here, Kathy. Where is she?
Where do you think I ought to go?
Bud, don't ever ask me that again.
Isn't anybody going to tell me? What's that? Why can't we just put it in the attic? Mother never goes up there.
Because I know your mother. Just let me hide the rug in the attic, and that's where she'll live.
How about Joe Phillips' uncle's farm? That'd be a good place.
Bud.
I think it'd be a good place.
For what, Daddy?
For hiding a rug.
What rug?
That rug.
Oh.
I didn't mean to hide the rug. I meant for a vacation.
Who said anything about a vacation?
You did.
Bud. Let's start all over.
Do I have to go out in the hall again?
No, just... The garage wouldn't be any good. She's out there 10 times a day.
Daddy, how about in back of the furnace?
Sure, and have the whole thing burn up.
Daddy!
Hey, I know. Why don't we unroll it and hide it under the old rug?
Because it'll stick out 1.5 feet on each end, that's why.
Daddy!
Couldn't we sort of fold it up a little?
Don't be a goon. There'd be a big lump.
Oh, I don't know. We could tell your mother it was the body of an old friend.
Father.
What if she peeked?
Bud.
She'd find out it wasn't a body, and then what?
Bud, Never mind.
Daddy!
What is it, Kathy?
We better hide the rug or Mommy'll see it.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
It's a good thing we don't have to hide the billiard table.
Bud.
That's it.
We're going to hide the billiard table?
Bud, give me a hand with the rug.
Okay.
Kathy, open the door to the playroom like a good girl.
Yes, Daddy. What are you going to do with the rug, Father?
We're going to hide it in the one place your mother won't ever look. We'll open it up and lay it on top of the billiard table.
Father, that's wonderful.
Yes, sir. She'll never find it there.
The door's open, Daddy.
Thank you, kitten. All right, Bud, let's go before your mother gets home. I'll take this in.
Okay. Heck, I'd have thought of the billiard table, but I didn't know it was a green rug.
It happens to be blue.
Blue? She'll spot it right away. Who ever heard of a blue billiard table?
We're going to put the cover over it.
Oh. Hey, that's good.
Thank you, Albert Einstein.
Watch your step, Father. Kathy left her skates on the stairs. I did not.
You certainly did.
I certainly didn't.
Never mind, Bud. Keep going.
Why don't you two stop arguing? I wasn't arguing.
You certainly were.
I certainly weren't.
All right, Bud. This is fine. Now put it down.
Boy, is that ever heavy.
Now, Betty, why don't you and Kathy take the cover off the table?
Okay. Come on, Knothead. You take the other side. Isn't this fun?
Then Bud and I can lift the rug.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Come on, get that cover off.
Hurry up, Kathy. I am hurrying.
Bud.
Well, it slipped, Dad.
Well, pick it up.
Jim, where are you?
All right, Bud, roll it out.
I don't think it's gonna work.
It's got to work.
Aren't you going to answer, Mommy?
We'll send her a wire in the morning. Bud, there's too much on this end. Pull it down.
Okay.
Father, the cover's getting heavy.
Come on, Bud.
Jim!
We'll send you a wire in the morning.
Kathy.
Well, you said.
It's all set, Dad.
We'll be right up, honey. All right, the cover, quick.
Jim, what on earth are you doing down there?
Smooth it out and hurry.
It's all covered, Father.
Good.
Jim, Hector Smith brought me home from the market, and I thought, what have you been doing?
Doing? Why, just,
Sitting around. That's all.
Well, you certainly sit hard. You're all out of breath.
I'm not, Mommy, and I lifted the whole...
Kathy!
I guess I didn't.
Margaret.
They're all in the playroom, Hector. Come on down.
Never mind, Heck. We're coming up.
Why, Jim, I thought you wanted Hector to see the billiard table.
No.
What?
I mean, Heck isn't interested in billiard tables.
Jim, have you torn the top again?
Oh, no.
We put it on very carefully.
Oh.
You put what on very carefully?
Look, I gotta get home, and if you're gonna stay down here all day...
You didn't have to come down, Heck. We were on our way up, weren't we, kids?
You bet.
Yes, sir.
Were we?
Dear, as long as he's down here, show Hector the table and let him go home.
Heck, you don't want to see the billiard table, do you?
Sure I do. That's why I came over.
But it's just an ordinary billiard table.
Jim!
What's the matter, pal? You got it stuffed full of old bodies or something?
That's pretty good, isn't it, Betty? Full of old bodies.
If a body meets a body coming through the billiard table.
Is this what happens when you buy a billiard table?
I don't know what's gotten into them, Hector. I've never seen them act so silly.
I wasn't acting silly.
I noticed that. Everything's all mixed up.
Bud, did you ever show Mr. Smith the pictures?
What pictures?
Any pictures. Heck, why don't you go upstairs with Bud?
I don't want to go upstairs with Bud.
Would you like to see how I can multiply? 8 times 3 are 24. 8 times 4...
That's enough, Kathy.
But I know up to 9 times.
I said that's enough.
Yes, Mommy.
Hector.
Honey, you know we're being very impolite. Don't you think we ought to offer Hector a cup of coffee?
Jim.
After all, he's a guest in our home.
I came in for 1 minute to see the billiard table.
Mother, I've got a wonderful idea. Let's go upstairs and make some coffee.
Boy, that'll be fun.
All right. If that gets a little dull, we can watch the linoleum.
Golly!
Come along, children. Let's all get hysterical together.
I love to make coffee. Don't you, Bud?
Oh, sure. I'd rather do that than almost anything.
I would, too.
Say, Jim, I was talking to a doctor the other day.
Wait a minute, will you?
I don't know if I should. You know, if you get these things early enough...
Well, a big help you turned out to be. Of all the times to show up.
I wanted to see the billiard table. What's wrong with that?
Hector, don't you understand? I couldn't show it to you.
Why not?
Because it's got a rug on top of it.
Jim, this doctor I was telling you about.
You don't believe me, huh? Okay, look. You see? A rug.
Okay, so it's a rug. That makes you all right, huh?
I'm hiding it.
Yeah. Look, Jim.
Hector, it's a surprise for the living room.
Oh, that's fine, pal. It'll probably tickle the heck out of the kitchen, too.
It's for Margaret. It's her birthday.
Oh. Oh, well, why didn't you say so?
I just did.
Jim!
Yes, Margaret?
Will you please come up here? I don't think I can take these children for another instant.
We'll be right there, honey. Come on, Heck.
Okay. The kids are in on the secret, huh?
They're all right. They won't say anything about it.
Yeah.
Margaret might suspect something. Say, Heck, how would it be if I hid the rug over at your place?
Fine. We have rugs hidden all over the joint. Heck, got a closet full of pancakes, too.
It'll only be until Monday.
Jim, why don't you just give it to her? How can you surprise anybody with a rug?
Believe me, it isn't easy.
Well, if you want to bring it over to my place, okay.
Hey, watch
but
it, watch it. Hiya, honey. Everything under control?
Not quite. I sent the little monsters into the den.
Well, let's see what they're up to, Heck.
Just a minute, Jim. You go ahead, Hector. I'd like to speak to Peter Pan.
Okay. I'll send up 2 red flares if I need help.
I'll be right in, Heck. Nice guy, Heck.
All right, Jim.
What?
What was all that hoop-de-doo in the playroom?
Hoop-de-doo?
Something was going on in the playroom, and I want to know what it was.
Well...
Yes?
There's only one thing I can tell you, Margaret. It's a secret.
I see. After 18 years, we have secrets.
Well, yes. I'm sorry, but that's it.
All right, let's both have secrets. The next time you talk in your sleep, I'll take notes.
Fine, you... I don't talk in my sleep.
No?
No.
All right.
When did I ever talk in my sleep?
Last night.
I did?
Mm-hmm.
That's impossible. Why... Well, what did I say?
You mean last night?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's a secret.
October 11th, 1951, Father Knows Best on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The news from 71 years ago next. And we thank you for joining us on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We're listening to an episode of Father Knows Best starring Robert Young, as it was originally broadcast on Thursday, October 11th, 1951. In the newspapers of that Thursday, 71 years ago, these were some of the headlines. A mile-long battle force of 50 U.S. tanks and thousands of 2nd Division troops plowed 8 miles deep into the communist fortress line in eastern Korea yesterday, creating havoc among fresh Chinese troops before it withdrew. The brilliant thrust caused General James A. Van Fleet, the 8th Army commander, to express hope that it would hasten the end of the month-long battle for Heartbreak Ridge. Allied and Red liaison officers met again at Panmunjom today in an effort to iron out the last kink barring a resumption of the Korean ceasefire talks at a new compromise site. The remaining issue was understood to be just how and when to settle differences over the extent of the neutrality zone. The 3 Allied liaison officers, Marine Colonel James C. Murray, Army Lieutenant Norman B. Edwards, and South Korean Lieutenant Colonel Lee Soo-young went to the meeting by helicopter. In Munsan, the 5-man UN truce team waited in tents in an apple orchard for word to resume the talks. Well, the delegation issued a statement today saying the exact site for resuming the talks, broken off by the Reds at Kaesong August 23rd, was still under discussion. House Senate conferees agreed yesterday to knock out a provision in the tax bill for withholding of income tax at the source of dividends, interests, and royalties. They accepted a Senate amendment forbidding the federal government to cut off Social Security aid to states which make public the names of relief beneficiaries, and they were reported to have released tentative agreement on the size of the individual income tax boost, but the compromise figure was not announced pending negotiation on other points in the dispute. The Defense Production Administration has settled tentatively on the figure of about 950,000 automobiles as the production ceiling in the first quarter of 1952, a cut of some 13% from present output. Officials disclosed that the decision was made yesterday. It revises earlier plans to cut production to approximately 800,000 passenger cars and station wagons because of the shortage of alloy steel. Auto industry sources had indicated that they were confident that they could show that the supply of alloy steel would be better than many officials expected. It was understood also that the CIO United Auto Workers appealed by wire to the White House for an improved metal ration for the auto industry. The union has seriously emphasized the prospect of unemployment issues in Detroit, which already is listed among the 22 cities having substantial unemployment. The Secret Service, in a rare appeal for aid yesterday, posted a $2,500 reward for information needing to break up a counterfeiting gang passing spurious money that fools even banks into accepting it. Head of the Chicago Secret Service office, Harry D. Andler, said that $500,000 in counterfeit $10 and $20 bills have been flooding the nation during the past 3 years. Anheuser commenting, this flood of bills is apparently the work of a well-organized gang. Already about $100,000 of the bills has been recovered, mostly passed in gaming establishments, cigar stores, and the like. However, the bills are so good that even well-established banks have accepted them as genuine. President Truman signed a bill into law yesterday authorizing $7.4 billion in arms and economic aid to anti-communist nations, but said it does not mean that the U.S. is engaged in an armaments race with the Soviet Empire. He acted minutes before the House Appropriations Committee approved a money bill actually appropriating $7.4 billion for the same purpose. Well, a 4-pound chihuahua named Chapo, the center of attention at the Los Angeles Animal Shelter. Seems Chapo was bitten by a man. It happened when Inspector Joe Von Slomsky left a gate ajar, out-scampered Chapo with the inspector in pursuit. E.B. Brown, a bystander, joined the chase. Chapo bit Brown on the hand and refused to let go. Brown leaned over and bit Chapo on the nose. Brown treated at a receiving hospital for dog bite. Chapo returned to the shelter, treated for man bite. And those some of the day's top news stories as reported in the newspapers of Thursday, October 11th, 1951 on your radio Father Knows Best. The conclusion comes up next here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. On tomorrow's Classic Radio Theater, an episode of Escape. William Conrad stars in Gringo, a tale of adventure, romance, and treasure south of the border. Escape from 70 years ago, October 12th, 1952, tomorrow. But right now, the conclusion of Father Knows Best from 71 years ago, October 11th, 1951.
It's a breathless moment later as Jim Anderson enters the den of the white frame house on Maple Street. But this isn't the fun-loving, gay-spirited Rover boy we left a minute ago. This is a grim-faced and visibly shaken Jim Anderson, a man with a whole new set of problems. Like this.
So there they were, see? With men on second and third.
Daddy! Father,
If we get away with it, then she know what her present
Wait a minute, please. Look, why don't you kids go into the kitchen and help your mother?
She just kicked us out.
She said she was going to scream.
Well...
Is anything wrong, Father?
Oh, no, I tell you what, you all go into the living room and wait for me. I'd like to talk to Mr. Smith for a minute.
Holy cow.
All we do is get kicked out of places. Hurry up or you'll get kicked in places. Daddy!
Come on, Noodle Nose.
Well, stop pulling me. All you do is pull me. We'll be in the living room when you want us, Father.
Thank you, Betty.
See you later, Mr. Smith.
You bet.
Oh, what a spot.
Does she know?
I don't know.
Then what are you so worried about?
Hector, there comes a time in the life of every married man...
Jim!
You know what I just found out?
What?
I talk in my sleep.
Oh, for crying out loud.
What do you mean, oh, for crying out loud? That's a serious thing.
You're nuts.
I am, huh? How would you like to talk in your sleep?
About what?
That's the trouble. I don't know.
Jim, look, a guy like you who's never done anything wrong in his whole life...
How do you know I haven't?
You mean you have?
Naturally. You? Oh, I don't mean anything big or serious or anything, but, well, what if I talked about the fish?
What fish?
The fish you and I caught up at the lake. Only we didn't catch them, we bought them at the market.
Well, they weren't biting.
Oh, my gosh.
Now what?
The poker game last week, I lost $12.
So?
I told Margaret I lost $2.
Boy, you're a real devil, aren't you?
Heck, you don't understand what this means. A man's home is his castle. His word is law. And then what happens? He goes to sleep and zowie, he's defenseless.
When was he any other way?
But I'll be afraid to fall asleep. There's no telling what I'll say.
Well, didn't Margaret give you a hint?
She gave me nothing but a dirty laugh.
That's bad.
You know, I feel just like I'm going down for the third time. I can see my whole life floating by.
See anybody we know?
Heck, it isn't funny.
It's the silliest thing I've ever heard.
Is that so? I'm not afraid of what I've done, because I haven't done anything, really. But what if I make up things? Or what if I have a dream, and I'm chasing Betty Grable?
Call me up. I'll join you.
Hector, why don't you go home? All you want to do is make jokes.
I wanted to go home 10 minutes ago, but no, I have to hear about talking in your sleep and rugs and...
The rug?
Jim, let go of my coat, will you? You'll tear it.
What if I told her about the rug?
Well, it's better than Betty Grable, isn't it? Jim, will you please... Hey, wait a minute. I got an idea.
If I talked about the rug, the kids will never forgive me.
Why don't we find out?
What?
Look, kids can find out anything, especially from their mothers.
What's that got to do
So
with...
your kids try to find out if you talk about the rug.
But I still won't know if I said anything
And
about...
if you didn't talk about the rug, they'll find out what you did talk about. Clever, huh?
In other words, I'm to make spies out of 3 innocent children.
Good idea, huh?
It isn't bad. Not bad at all.
Well, this time I'm going to go before I get mixed up in anything else.
Wait a minute, Heck. I'll take you to the front door.
Okay.
Look, Heck, exactly how do you think I ought to go about this?
Just lay it right on the line.
About the rug, you mean?
Sure. So long, kids.
Bye, Mr. Smith.
See you later, Margaret.
She can't hear you from here, Heck. I'll tell her you said goodbye.
Okay. And Jim, you don't have to worry. Leave everything to the kids. They'll figure it out.
You don't know my kids. I'll probably wind up in Alcatraz.
Well, you know what they say. Cher, cher la femme.
What's that got to do with it?
Who knows? I had 1 year of high school French. Well, I'll be seeing you, pal.
I'll let you know what happens.
Don't bother. I'll read about it in the newspaper.
Sometimes I wish I had a job in a nice, quiet lighthouse.
Did you and Mr. Smith get everything straightened out, Father?
Well, we talked things over.
Daddy, Bud says girls can't be president, and they can too, can't they?
I didn't say they couldn't. I just said I'd move, that's all.
Kids, I've got something pretty serious to take up with you. I may have told your mother about the rug.
Father, how could you, President?
Now, wait a minute. I'm not sure I did. I said maybe.
You mean you don't know?
That's right.
But if you told her...
I said something in my sleep last night, and I don't know what it was.
Gosh.
It might have been about the rug, or it might have been about other things.
What other things?
Never mind.
Father, that's awful.
What'd you do a thing like that for?
Because I wanted to see if the bedroom had an echo.
Oh.
How could you tell if you were asleep?
Let's go back to the rug.
Father,
Yes?
would you mind if we... Well, I guess we shouldn't.
You shouldn't what?
Well, I was thinking, if some of us pretended we knew what you said, Mother might tell the rest of us, and... No, you wouldn't want us to do that.
Why wouldn't I? I mean, if you want to...
You don't mind?
I don't mind at all.
You know what I don't understand? What's everybody talking about?
I don't understand it either. Look, Bud, we'll go into the kitchen, and you pretend you know what Father said.
I don't know what anybody said.
You heard what Father said last night.
How do you know?
You pretend you did.
What for?
Betty, I think you'd better try something else.
Well, you better try it fast. Mommy's coming.
Jim,
I'm right here, honey.
the coffee's all ready if you... Where's Hector?
He said for me to tell you goodbye. He had to go home.
Oh, dear. After I went to all that trouble.
Come on, Bud. It isn't fair, and you know it.
Huh?
What did Father say?
When?
Last night.
Well, how do I know?
Betty, it's no use. Maybe we'd better...
Just a minute, Father. Mother, if a boy hears what his father says when he's talking in his sleep, does he have the right to keep it a secret?
Why, Bud, did you hear your father last night?
Of course he did. Didn't you, Bud?
I didn't hear anybody last night.
Bud, please.
But I told you. Oh. You mean... Oh. Oh, sure, I heard him. I just remembered.
Betty, believe me.
Yes, sir, I sure did hear him. Boy, was he funny, wasn't he, Mom?
Yes, dear, he was very funny.
I'm glad somebody enjoyed it.
What was funny about it?
Well...
Never mind, Bud. We don't need you. Mother's going to tell us. Aren't you, Mother?
No, Angel, I'm not.
You're not?
Mm-mm.
But if Bud knows...
It isn't the sort of thing one bandy's about, is it, Bud?
Gosh, no.
And, Bud, you're not to tell them either.
Oh, you can count on that.
We can count on what?
I'm not allowed to tell.
Jim, this whole thing is pretty obvious.
What is?
Using the children to find out what you said last night.
Well, good grief, Margaret.
Is that what you're trying to do? Kathy, please. But I know what Daddy said. You do.
Why didn't you say so?
Nobody asked me.
Kathy, why don't you and I go for a little walk?
Okay.
Jim, she doesn't know anything about it.
Yes, I do, Mommy.
You couldn't possibly. You were sound asleep.
Oh, I didn't hear it last night. I heard it this afternoon when you were telling Mrs. Hathaway on the phone.
Oh, you told Mrs. Hathaway.
I did no such thing.
Well, you said something about Daddy. Don't you remember? You said, "Hello, Lucille. How's Laurie's cold?" And then you said, "My goodness, isn't that awful?" And then you said...
Kathy, will you please get to the point?
I have to remember, don't I?
Well, go ahead.
Kathy.
Then she said, "You'll never guess what Jim and the children are getting me for my birthday."
Margaret.
Oh, dear.
And then she said, Helen Phillips was shopping at Gorman's, and she saw Jim go into the rug department.
Holy cow.
And then she said, "Kathy, why don't you stop it?"
We've heard enough.
Yes, Daddy.
I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to spoil your fun.
You knew all the time, didn't you?
Yes, dear.
About the rug, all that excitement in the playroom.
Yes, dear.
Oh, Margaret,
Yes, dear?
happy billiard table.
It's midnight in Springfield, and an autumn moon hangs low in a star-swept sky. Maple Street is quiet and dark, except for a small light in the bedroom of the Anderson home. There, life goes on, like this.
Jim, won't you please come to bed?
In a little while, honey. I want to read another 2 or 3 chapters.
You said the same thing an hour ago.
I did? Well, it's a very interesting book.
Certainly must be. Jim,
Yes, Margaret?
are you and the children very angry with me?
Of course not. We aren't angry at all.
Then why won't you come to bed?
You go to sleep, and then I'll come to bed.
Jim, are you still worrying about that silly talking business?
I'm not worried about anything. You just go to sleep.
Come over here.
Now, look, Margaret.
Come over here.
Good grief. Treat a man as though he didn't have any... All right, I'm here.
Sit down. Now, would you like to know what you said last night?
It isn't important, but if you want to tell me...
Well, you had the most peaceful smile on your face. Must have been a beautiful dream.
Honey, please.
Then you sighed, and you said, so softly, anyone for tennis?
Good night, Margaret.
Good night, dear.
Join us again next week when we'll be back with Father Knows Best, starring Robert Young as Jim Anderson, with Roy Bargy and the Maxwell House Orchestra. In our cast were Rhoda Williams as Betty, Gene Vanderpyle, Ted Donaldson, Norma Jean Nilsson, Herb Vigran, and yours truly, Bill Foreman. So until next Thursday, good night and good luck from the makers of Maxwell House, America's favorite brand of coffee. Always good to the last drop. Father Knows Best was transcribed in Hollywood and written by Ed James. You will want to read an interesting feature on Robert Young in the current issue of Parade magazine.
Join Mr. Keene, Tracer of Lost Persons, on NBC.
October 11th, 1951, Father Knows Best on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. If you miss a day, you don't have to miss a single show. All of our shows are available on demand at my webpage, classicradio.stream, classicradio.stream. You can stream our shows, learn more about classic radio collecting. You can find a list of podcast sites that have our shows available for download. You can also contact me, and if you enjoy what we do here, you can buy me a coffee. The Buy Me a Coffee money goes toward us acquiring additional classic radio theater collections. Thank you for tuning in. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station.